I am Philip Carwatt, Public Services Director for the City of Saginaw, and I'm going to be giving you presentations for three of our divisions within the Public Service Department, to include major streets, local streets, rubbish fund, and our water and sewer division. I'm going to start with the major street fund. This is for proposed budget year, fiscal year 2022. As you can see on this slide here, the proposed budget for fiscal year 2022 for major street fund is right around 7.9 million as compared to our fiscal year 21 approved budget of 7.62 million. It's about a $350,000 increase, which is about a 4.6% increase. But you have to keep in mind that this does include the use of fund equity, fund balance, in the amount of just over $833,000. And the revenue that supports this fund comes from several different sources. The majority of it is from our Act 51, our gas and weight tax. This year we're estimated to get just over $6.6 million in gas and weight tax. We do have an agreement with MDOT to do state trunk line maintenance on the right around, I believe it's 18 miles of state highway throughout the city, and that amount of revenue is $245,000. We do have a Telecommunications Right-of-Way Act agreement, Public Act 48, that basically gives us $235,000. We estimate our right-of-way permits to be around $36,000. Revenue from special event applications that come through the Public Services Department that require services rendered for the events. We estimate that bring in around $15,000. And then there's some miscellaneous revenues for just over $4,000. But a majority of the increase in the budget this year from fiscal year 21 is directly related to an increase in cost in bridge projects. And also there are some much needed capital purchase requirements needed for some vehicles and equipment within the major street division. This next slide basically shows you all of the divisions within the major street fund. And these are all listed throughout within your budget documents, but basically there's an engineering administration division, there's a street project division, shows you the overall cost for street projects at just over 2.3 million. You got bridge projects. A lot of our bridge projects, fortunately, get funded like 95% by federal dollars, so the city's only required mostly to do a 5% match on the construction. Now, we are required to pay 100% of all engineering and construction administration, but so that dollar amount there, for the most part, don't show you the true cost related to all of our bridge projects completed, but just what the city's participation portion is going to be. So I know our city engineer gave a presentation on the projects that are coming up this year, so that was from a couple meetings ago if you need more detail on any of the projects. And then you got traffic maintenance, just over 680,000, streets administration, routine maintenance, 1.9 million. That's for mostly the routine maintenance, kind of between March and before snowfall hits, because once we get into snowfall, you get into winter maintenance. But we have bridge maintenance, winter maintenance, state trunk line administration, state trunk line routine maintenance, state trunk line winter maintenance, and then we have some debt service payments. Some previous years we had to finance some vehicles and equipment and do some principal and interest payments, so the debt service is going to be mostly related to some prior capital purchases. This next slide is to show you some of those capital purchases that I mentioned that are showing a slight increase in the overall budget for fiscal year 22 compared to fiscal year 21. We're going to be replacing an engineering pickup truck. That dollar amount you see there of $8,750, a lot of the trucks that we purchase in many of these divisions are paid for out of multiple accounts because they have multiple uses, and we use them to support other divisions. So this $8,750 is a portion of the overall cost of $35,000, and then the remainder of that truck will be paid for out of different funding accounts. Same thing with aero boards. That's only a portion of the overall cost. 2 aero boards cost just over $9,000, but the portion to come out of the major streets is just over $3,600. We're going to replace an aerial truck used for the streets division and other divisions as well. The overall cost of that truck's $130,000. However, $65,000 is to come from the 202 fund. We're going to replace a loader. I believe we have two big loaders used at the compost site, used to load salt from the salt barn, and also out, in the street to move logs and different type stuff, heavier items that need to get cleaned up. So the overall cost of the loader is about $300,000. That's going to be split between the major streets account and also the rubbish account, 226. But the portion from major streets is going to be $180,000. And then we're going to replace a claw truck. That's a big truck. It's got its own lift, as you can see in the photo there. That's basically the claw truck. But our truck now, I think, is well over 20 years old, and I don't even know if it's operating currently. So if it is, it's tough to keep it on the street. So, but we use that to, clear a lot of the trees out of the streets. When we fall the trees, we use that equipment to get the big portions of the tree into the truck and haul it out to our compost site where we can dispose of all the lumber and the material and stuff. So overall, for fiscal year 2022, our equipment and vehicle purchases out of the 202 account are just over $570,000. And then some of the major projects, again, the city engineer, Louis Taylor, gave a presentation to council a couple weeks ago, I believe, maybe the first meeting in April, that he went into great detail over all the projects. So I'm just going to quickly go through these. But out of the 202 fund, we're going to do an annual mill surface of $500,000. That's basically where you mill off an inch or two of asphalt, and you pave down another inch or two. Various streets throughout the city, annual crack sealing. That's where, a majority of the cracks within our streets, if you don't seal them, the water gets down into the cracks. Water can pump the soils out from underneath the pavement, and then that's how you get your potholes and your deterioration of your roads can happen quicker. 17th Street rehabilitation from Witters to Walnut. Mackinac Street reconstruction, Hamilton to Alexander. That says $250,000, but again, you got to remember a lot of these numbers aren't the overall cost of the project. They're just the portion of funding that's coming out of the 202 account, because I believe that Mackinac project is right around $3 million, or well over $2.5 million. So a portion of it's coming out of the water fund, the sewer fund, a lot of state funds and other funding in that. But again, that was presented in a prior presentation. Center Street Bridge preventative maintenance project of $190,000, and Lapeer Avenue reconstruction from Roosevelt Alston to 6th of $175,000. This is just a continuation of the projects. We're looking at doing some work on East Holland Avenue from Water to Washington, West Holland Avenue from Woodbridge to Hamilton, and East Remington Street from Water to Owen, just over $550,000. And then we have some monies budgeted in the 202 fund for miscellaneous design, miscellaneous construction. And them are just for trying to get some shelf-ready projects and some design for future year projects. And just a couple examples are, we're going to be designing Mackinac from Congress to Alexander, South Jefferson from Hoyt to Janes, Sheridan from Hess to Rust, and then some rehabilitation work needed on the Genesee Street Bridge. So that's just some examples of the projects that account up to those total dollar amounts. That's the major street fund. Now we're going to get into the local street fund, which is obviously, it's going to be a lot less overall monies. And you'll see that as I move forward here. But just to give you a little bit of a background, the city of Saginaw has, I think, just over around 280 miles of streets. Of those streets, about 18 miles are state highway. Just under 90 miles are going to be classified as your major streets, which that funding comes from the 202 or the major street fund. And then we have about just under 180 miles of local streets. So although we have double the roadway miles for local streets compared to major streets, we get about 1/6 or 1/7 of the overall budget. As I presented earlier, the major street fund, you got about $7.9 million for just under 90 miles of road, and the local street fund proposed budget for fiscal year 22, as you can see, is $1.8 million. So substantially lower amount of money for a larger length of roadway, I guess, but they are your local streets. They carry lower volume of traffic at lower speeds. So the fiscal year 2022 budget for local streets as compared to the 2021. It's a decrease of about $232,000. But last year, keep in mind, we used just over $230,000 in fund equity. This year, we're not using any fund equity, so that's why you're seeing about 11.3% decrease. And those revenues come from solely the Act 51, Public Act 48, or Act 51, I'm sorry, revenue for gas and weight, based on the formula from the state. So, and overall, the decrease in the overall budget's related to no local street resurfacing this year. And we had to do a reduction in some projects because of increases in some unfunded liability and indirect costs throughout the budget. And again, as shown in the major street fund, the local street fund, but there's several divisions throughout that fund also that provide the services needed to do the best we can to maintain our local streets. You got an engineering administration division, a street resurfacing, street projects, traffic maintenance, street administration, routine maintenance, winter maintenance, and then there's just increase to fund equity and operating transfers in and out. Some of the projects slated for fiscal year 22 out of the local street fund is reconstruction of Wadsworth Street, Lake State Rail Yard east to Veterans Memorial Parkway for $270,000. And then we do have some miscellaneous construction, and again, miscellaneous design and construction administration related to some projects to come in future fiscal years. One of those is resurfacing of 12th Street from Perkins to Janes. And then we're going to try to do some biannual resurfacing, mill and pave, or resurfacing of $40,000 on streets that have yet to be determined. And then we're looking at doing a local street reconstruction project on Meredith Street from Washington to the railroad tracks. And that's the end of my major street and local street fund presentation. Just to give you a brief history of the rubbish fund. The rubbish fund revenues projected for fiscal year 2022 are going to be $5,049,000, or just over $5 million, but that does include $451,000 use of fund equity. However, the rubbish fund, the services provided by the rubbish fund, for those that may not know all of the services, that provides weekly trash and bulky collection and disposal at the curb. That service is contracted out through Mid-Michigan Waste. We do have bi-weekly recycling and disposal. That services is actually provided by the City of Saginaw staff in-house. We have weekly yard waste collection, April 1st through November 30th. That service is also provided by the City of Saginaw with in-house staff. We do provide monthly curbside brush collection once a month for each resident. That service is provided April 1st through November 30th. You know, there's guidelines, rules and guidelines on the City of Saginaw website that explain that curbside brush collection in greater detail. But basically that brush is collected the 1st through the 15th on the west side of the city, and the 16th through the end of the month on the east side. So, and we do have a convenience station. The convenience station is a service the City of Saginaw provides at its public works facility, where residents from the city have the ability to bring different waste items that they cannot set out at the curb. And there's rules and guidelines on the City of Saginaw's website as well for that. But that's open yearly, once per month. It's the second Saturday of each month and that's open from 8 a.m. till noon. Then we have the compost facility that's out to the northeast side of town. That's opened April 1st through November 30th. We have an environmental division. That's, for the most part, provides downtown and old town and park refuse collection services, and removal of illegal dumping, rear lot cleanups, and inspections and enforcement of citations and violations of the City of Saginaw's ordinances. And any additional information related to the rubbish fund, the rules and regulations are available on the City of Saginaw's website and or Mid-Michigan Waste's website, which is www.recyclemotion.org, or just you can Google search MMWA. So the rubbish fund fiscal year 21 budget was $4.5 million. This year's proposed budget is just over $5 million. It's a $511,000 increase, or 11% increase. And again, as previously mentioned, that does include use of fund equity of just over $450,000. The majority of the increases within this budget are directly related to increase in annual fees from Mid-Michigan Waste Association. The City of Saginaw has a contract with Mid-Michigan Waste for collection and disposal of solid waste, bulky items. That contract is due to expire December 31st of 2022. So we're hoping, I think that the fees through the authority are very competitive. So we're hoping we can get some good bids moving forward after 2022 for many of these services. So we'll continue to monitor that. Majority of the increase is directly related to some capital purchases for vehicles and equipment that are going to be required to provide the service and support the operation of the rubbish fund for the City of Saginaw. And we'll get into some detail on that later. The rubbish fund, as you can see here, is just some detail here. So the fiscal year 2022 rubbish fee is going to be proposed at $230. That's what the revenue was based on. The current fee is $220, which basically covers the services through June 30th of 2021. July 1 of 2022, we'll start our new fiscal year budget. And the new rubbish fee bills will be, them are getting sent out sometime in August, and they will have the fee of the $230 per house order per unit. The City of Saginaw current house count, which is the residential house count that is approved to, or per ordinance has the ability to utilize these services from the city, is 18,559. And just to let you know, that number is a decrease of about 4 units from last year's house count of 18,563. But just to give you an idea of the reduction in population and or house count within the city, that house count in 2010 was 23,258 units, which is a reduction to the current house count of 4,695 units being serviced. So almost 4,700 units within the last 11 years is the reduction in total. The revenue, the rubbish fee, so basically the per unit fee generates just over 4.5 million, and then some of the detail behind that is that not all of that gets paid as they get the bill. A lot of people pay, so the paid on time is about 61%, 2.6 million, and then if that doesn't get paid right away, that bill gets put to the special assessment, and if it's not paid through that, it's then bought by the county. The county tries to collect on it, and then, whatever the county collects comes back to the city. If the county can't collect on it, then that money is due the county. So, and then environmental cleanups, that's for, areas where environmental has to go out and clean up. We track our time and material, and we bill that out back to the individual that we have to provide that service for. Compost site revenues is for sale of material at the compost site, either dumping of material by landscapers and that around the area, and we also sell finished compost at the site, so that generates about, right around $65,000. And then again, that use of fund equity of $451,000. And then the rubbish fund operational expenses by division. There is an administration division. That budget for this year is $676,000. You got rubbish collection of $1.4 million. A majority of those costs are a direct payment to Mid-Michigan Waste Association for their collection services. You have the environmental division, sanitary landfill, which is for the most part the disposal of the waste collected at the landfill. That's $455,000. Brush collection. That's your curbside brush collection at the curb, $510,000. Recycling, $414,000. Composting, which is our composting facility, $418,000. Yard waste, $514,000. And then you have debt service, which is for some annual payments. When the City of Saginaw brought recycling back in-house in 2016, and yard waste, we had to make some purchase of some packer operator trucks. And we didn't have the cash to purchase those, so we made a principal and interest installment payment. So that's the debt payments on those annual payments. Some major capital purchases needed within the rubbish fund. We're replacing a rear packer truck for $180,000. A brush chipper, that's what we use to go out when we're doing our brush collection along the curb to grind up and chip up a lot of the branches and debris that gets placed along the curbs. And then we haul that out to the compost site. Again, we're replacing loader 870. That overall cost of that loader is $300,000. The portion to come from the rubbish fund is $120,000. We need to replace a skid steer unit within the environmental division. That cost is $51,000. Some site improvements needed at the compost site, including new drainage structures and piping for about $20,000, and some asphalt resurfacing for about $10,000. So the total of the major capital purchases is right around $451,000. And that's the end of the rubbish fund presentation. The fiscal year 2022 operational and capital budget for both the sewer fund and the water fund for the city of Saginaw. And as you can see on this slide, the proposed budget expenditures for the sewer fund are just over $24 million, and then revenues to equal the expenditures within the sewer fund. Fiscal year 2022 proposed budget for the sewer is $24,932,000, as compared to $24,582,000 in fiscal year 21, which is just over a $350,000 increase. Very minimal, right around a 1.4% increase. Increases are directly related to administration indirect costs by around $90,000. Process control systems increase of about $127,000 for professional services and operating services. That includes software upgrades to support SCADA and different software systems used throughout the sewer department. Catch basin cleaning by $35,000, and some motor vehicle repairs for street sweepers and debt service payments for some equipment that was purchased in prior years. Some of the divisions within the sewer fund is kind of shared and split between two departments. Paul Reinsch, the Director of Water and Wastewater, and myself, I'm the Director of Public Services, work together on this fund because, as you can see in this slide, some of the services or the divisions are covered under the Public Services Department, Engineering Administration, Meter Maintenance and Service, Catch Basin Cleaning, and it looks like I also get debt service, where some of the other divisions and services within the fund are under the wastewater plant and remotes, which is directly covered by Paul Reinsch, who's the Director of Water and Wastewater, and his staff. And that's sewer administration, process control systems, treatment and pumping, asset management, remote facilities, a surplus division where we do most of our projects and many of our capital purchases out of. Sewer bond construction, of which you see there's $0 budgeted in there, and then customer accounting that takes care of invoicing and receiving payments for service. Some of the major projects and purchases out of the sewer fund, and again, as in previous funds that I've explained, much of our equipment's not bought. A lot of it's not bought, right out of one fund. A lot of it's shared between divisions. So we know based on its use, the amount of usage in each area, so that's how we do most of our purchases. Is we plan out where that equipment's going to be used, and then some of it's shared between water and sewer, so some of it could be split 50-50, or if it's solely sewer, it'll be bought 100% out of sewer, and if it's solely water, it'll be 100% out of water. But planned purchases out of the sewer fund are for $404,500. It includes some miscellaneous tools and equipment at the maintenance and service division, one wastewater treatment plant vehicle, 4 pickup trucks, 2 10-yard dump trucks, which will be used at the maintenance and service division, 1 backhoe at maintenance and service, a couple zero-turn mowers at wastewater treatment plant, workman cart at the wastewater treatment plant. So, and the dollar amounts of those vary. The dump trucks, both of them are going to be $280,000, so $140,000 will come from the sewer fund. Projects, and again, these aren't all of them. There is a substantial amount of detail within the budget documents that line item everything we plan on purchasing and/or all the projects that we plan on completing. But this is just some of those maintenance and service, parking lot and security and HVAC replacements of around $150,000. Some sewer costs related to road projects of $945,000. You got West Highland Avenue, Woodbridge to Hamilton, East Remington Avenue, Water to Jefferson, Mackinac, Alexander to Hamilton, Lapeer Avenue, 2nd to 6th, 12th Street, Perkins to Janes, and Wadsworth Lake State Rail Yard to Vets Memorial of $50,000. Now, again, these costs are just directly related to the sewer side of the projects, and as presented earlier in the Major Streets Fund, there is major and/or local street money applied to these projects as well, and as you'll see here coming up under the water presentation, there's going to be some water, more than likely, if water work is necessary in these roadways, portions of the funding as well towards those projects. And then maintenance and sewer, service, we have some sewer cleaning, lining and replacements of just over 1.5 million. And then there's some projects going on, instrumentation and process controls, wastewater treatment plant maintenance and rehab projects of just over 1.7 million. Now we're into the water fund. Estimated expenditures or the overall proposed budget for fiscal year 2022 is just over 35,678,000. And again, the revenues to match. Fiscal year 2022 proposed budget of 35.6 million compared to fiscal year 21 approved budget that we're currently in of 32,559,285. That's just over a $3 million increase, 9.6%. And a majority of the increase is due to increase in construction projects from 2.9 million in 2021 to 6.98 million this year, which is a $4.8 million increase. And if you look at the miscellaneous descriptions for 591, 4740, and 4741, you will see the construction and bond projects, and we'll get into some detail and show you some of those projects here in future slides. And then there was also the addition of a new division. I think this is the second year of the new division. The lead and copper rule requires the city of Saginaw to replace all of its lead and or any service lines that were once connected to lead within the next 20 to 25 years. We're doing most of that in-house. We feel that that's most economical and efficient for the city of Saginaw. Our costs are mostly controlled due to labor outside of material. So that division is just over 1.5 million. And then some other increases are for indirect costs, for administration, some increases to process control systems for some projects that they're working on, and also treatment and pumping. Similar to the sewer fund, the water fund is managed by both the Public Services Department and the Water and Wastewater Department. So again, myself and Paul Reinsch work diligently together to manage this fund and provide the services required under it. As you can see here, again, the several divisions that fall under me, Public Services, are cross connections, engineering administration, meter maintenance and service, the service line replacement division, and then debt service payments. And then under the water treatment, Paul Reinsch, you have water administration, the process control systems, treatment and pumping, asset management, raw water, surplus, and water bond. As you can see there, surplus, we have just over 7 million in the water bond, 6.3 to do some of our, a lot of our construction projects within the city and for out city wholesale customers. Some major projects and purchases. Water treatment plant and remotes, miscellaneous projects, just over 8 million, 8.7 million. And some of the examples, not all of them again, all of them will be listed within your budget documents on the appropriate pages, but we have some elevated storage, high service pump room improvements and yard discharge piping at the plant of right around 2 million, a new generator at the Kochville station for 650,000, and then some miscellaneous water treatment improvements of 850,000. And as spoken earlier, the new lead and galvanized service line replacement division is just over 1.5 million. And then we are putting in a new out city main, which gets some water out to Frankenmuth Bertrand area there. It's the Junction Road parallel main. It's actually Junction/Portsmouth Road. That project is ready to bid and go out of an estimated cost of 2.3 million. Again, as shown in the sewer fund, some of the equipment is the similar equipment as shown in the sewer because it's used between the two divisions. The vehicles and large equipment purchases within the water portion side of this are just over 375,000. Again, that includes 4 pickup trucks, a passenger van, the 2 10-yard dump trucks that was discussed earlier that shared 50-50 between the water and the sewer fund, similar to the backhoe. and then 1 zero-turn mower at the Maintenance and Service Division as well to maintain their properties. Water related to road projects, estimated cost just over $1.4 million. Again, some of the very similar same projects as we talked about in the 202 fund and in the 590, which is our major street and sewer fund. Because for the most part, all projects include major streets or local streets and the sewer and water, which is underneath the roads. Mackinac to Alexander, or Mackinac Street, Alexander to Hamilton of $470,000 related to water. Lapeer Avenue, 2nd to 6th, $375,000. 17th Street, Walnut to Witters, $150,000. West Highland Avenue, Woodbridge to Hamilton of $150,000. And then again, Wadsworth from Lake State Railroad east to Vets of $130,000. And then some miscellaneous engineering for projects, which are future projects to come. And some of those projects, for example, are Sheridan from Rust to South City limits, Jefferson from Hoyt to Janes, and Wheeler Street from Michigan to Gratiot. And these are mostly for design services for future construction. And that's my presentation.